Someone asked me a question about a subject that for some reason I seem to be coming back to this last week a few times. So felt like there's a reason for that. So I'll dive into it. I'm gonna call the subject managing uncertainty. Managing uncertainty. So one of the topics that I tend to speak about a lot is how little we know from different angles, how little we know. We don't know very much. We don't know very much, but we have to be reminded of the fact that we don't know very much because we somehow move through this existence with the assumption that we know everything we need to know, or almost everything we need to know. But then when you just ask a few questions, you get to this uncomfortable place of recognizing that you don't know very much. So I often go there now when I'm trying to go to this place where I recognize that I don't know very much. I often ask myself questions about how my body works. And so that quickly takes me to this place of recognition that I don't know hardly anything. And I could know even more than I do, but I don't. I don't know very much how my heart works. I don't know how my lungs work. I don't know how I breathe. I don't really know how I digest food. I don't know how it works when I go to the bathroom. I don't know very much about the state, my present state of health. You know, like if I went through my various organs, what condition are they in? What condition are they in? It's not just that I don't know. I don't really care, because once I recognize that I don't know, that's it. You know, like, oh, that's interesting. I don't know.
Working, so we're good.
Yeah, but I don't know. I know there are people that know, but even the people that know have to remind me and others that they don't know very much. It's always surprising when a doctor tells you they don't know, or when you've got something clearly wrong with you and they can't figure out what it is, or there's something that's not working and they don't know how to resolve that, or things. In those moments, we're told that they don't know, and it's somehow shocking to us because we feel that how could they not know? I mean, isn't this what they're supposed to do? They're supposed to know. And then you remind yourself, well, none of us knows very much. We just don't know very much. But I like to pick a subject like that because it helps me just get back to this place. I could pick any subject. I don't know very much about any subject, but that one tends to work for me. And it's useful for me every once in a while to realize how little I know. So when I say I don't know about things like that, it doesn't cause panic or anxiety. The area where it tends to bring panic or anxiety in people, and sometimes in me, is about what's going to happen. You know, what's going to happen? Like what will happen tomorrow? What will happen the day after tomorrow? What will happen next week? What will happen? When will I die? How will I know? What would it be like? What, etc. Those areas can be the source of anxiety, because I really don't know very much about what's going to be. That doesn't mean that I don't know anything about what's going to be. It just means that I don't know very much about what's going to be. So, because at the same time that I don't know very much, there has been a sense, for as long as I can remember, that there is some kind of order. There is some kind of reliable order. I'm going to suggest, one second here. That this is part of the message going back to creation, and in particular, the fourth day of creation. So this is in chapter 1, and it's verse 14. Yad. Vayomer Elokim, and Elokim said, Yehi ma'oros, happy Yom Ha'atzmaut, by the way. Happy Yom Ha'atzmaut. Yehi ma'oros barakia hashamayim. Let there be lights in the firmament of Shemayim, of the heavens. Lahavdil bein hayom ubein halayla, to distinguish between day and night. Vahayu, and they will be la'otot u'lamoadim, for signs and for gathering moments, which we often call holidays, gathering moments. So there'll be for signs and for holidays, gathering moments, special moments. Liamim, for the days, vishanim, and the years. So you would, having just studying even the most basic science, physics, and chemistry and biology, just studying the basics, you would find this a surprising thing to point to, that as far as we're concerned, the purpose of the stars and the moon and the sun is to act as a calendar so that we can keep track of time, not just of time as it passes, but to make plans. Because when it speaks about Moadim, times to gather, what we call holidays, times to gather, that would be planning, because you're going to know when this holiday is coming, so you can plan for it, so you can gather. You're not going to be able to gather without some kind of heads up. It's not going to work, especially if these are going to involve a lot of people. You're going to have to be able to plan it. So this is going to help you. So you're going to be able to keep track of time, and you're going to be able to plan get-togethers. And that is why we have the sun, the moon, and the stars. They're also there for light. To shine on the earth. So there is that. There is photosynthesis, which is important, and other kinds of benefits from having the sun. Existence is one of those benefits that we have from the sun. And it was. And God made the two great lights, which we call the sun and the moon. Esam ora gadol m'shalas hayom, the great light to rule over the day. Vesam ora katan m'shalas halayla, and the smaller light to rule over the night. Beis hakohavim, and the stars. Vayitein osam elokim barakia, and God placed them in the barakia shemayim, in the firmament of the heavens. La'ir al haaretz, to shine over the earth. V'lim shol b'yom u'b'layla, they will rule over day and night. Lahavdil beina or beina choshech, distinguish between light and darkness. Vayar Elokim ki tov, and God saw it was good. Vayi erev vayi boker yom revi'i, and it was evening and it was day, the fourth day. So that was day 4, started on Tuesday night, and then you have Wednesday. So Tuesday night what we're entering into is when this happened. Okay, so I'm thinking about that because in this week's Torah portion, in chapter 23 of this week's Torah portion, which is Emor, we have the discussion of the holidays. So it's chapter 23, verse 23. 23. Michael Jordan. Vayidaber Hashem on Moshe Lamor. And God says to Moshe, saying, Daber b'nei Yisrael, speak to the people of Israel Lamor, saying, B'chodesh hashvi'i be'echad lachodesh. No. That's not right. Forget 23. Forget Michael Jordan. It's Michael Jordan. Who's number 4? This famous number 4.
Michael Jordan.
All right, we have to work on that. Who number 4 is?
Ryan Sandberg.
Ryan Sandberg?
Well, his 23. So that's what.
No, we need a 4.
23.
Right, but 23 is not going to be. That's going to be Rosh Hashanah. We're going to start it off on 23:4. Ela Moadei Hashem Mikroi Kodesh. These are the Moadim of God. Same word, same concept. Moed means a gathering time. We often translate it as holiday. These are the Moadim of God, Mikroi Kodesh, holy events. Asher Tikrosam b'Moadam. These are times of calling out or gather or in their time, or happenings in their time. And then it goes on to start with Pesach. You know what? Go back even farther. We might as well go to the original, or just 23:1. Having a day. Vayidaber Hashem Moshe Lamor Daber b'nei Yisrael Amar Talem Moadei Hashem Asher Tikro Sam Mikroi Kodesh Elam Moadai. So, b'nei Yisrael, he says, speak to the people of Israel. Say to them, these are the gathering points or holidays of God. You will call them or call out to them, but also they are an event, holy events. Elahem Moadai. These are my Moadim. Sheshet Yamim Te'aseh Malacha. 6 days you will do your work. V'yom Hashvi Shabbat Shabbatom Mikra Kodesh. Kol Malacha Lo Sasu Shabbati Lashem Shabbasi Lashem B'chol Moshvoseichem. So 6 days you do your work. On the 7th day you will have a rest. It is a Mikra Kodesh. So it's called holy. It's a holy event. Kol malacha lo tasu, you shouldn't do creative work. Shabbat Hashem is the Shabbat of God, b'chol moshvosechem, in all your dwelling places. So the first of the holidays that's mentioned, really, we say Pesach is the first of the holidays, but really Shabbos is the first one discussed. And it all calls you back to that thing in Bereshis, that moment on the 4th day when God puts the lights in the heaven so that we, one of the big reasons is these Moadim. And now we're talking about the Moadim. So this goes all the way back to why there are sun, moon, and stars in the heavens. One of the big reasons for why there's sun, moon, stars in the heavens is what the Torah is about to talk about over here, the Moadim. So we have Shabbos first discussed, and then Pesach, the Omer, which is where we are now, which ends in Shavuos, And then we have Rosh Hashanah, which was 23. And then we have Yom Kippur and Sukkot. So we're in the run of the holidays. The run of holidays is not the entire year, even though that's how we tend to think of it. The run of holidays is from spring till fall. That's when the holidays happen. Mostly they happen in spring and fall, not so much in the summer, although Shavuos gets close to the summer, but it's still in spring. Ramosha Shapiro, blessed memory, used to make that point that the holidays tend to be in the mild parts of the year. They tend to be in the mild parts of the year. When I say holidays, the main fixtures of the holidays are the pilgrimage festivals. So you have Pesach on one end, and you have Sukkot on the other end. And again, Pesach's in the spring. Sukkot is in the fall. They tend to be moderate, which is convenient because they are pilgrimage festivals. One is the end of the rainy season. The other one's going to be the beginning of the rainy season. But if all things work out, there will not be a lot of rain while people are making their pilgrimage festival, and the weather will be okay. Maybe a lot of people are sleeping in tents and stuff, so the weather's going to be pretty decent.
Maybe.
And again, even Shavuos, it's not in the absolute heat of it. But even so, with all of that, if you look at the biblical holidays happen within a 6-month period. There's 6 months then without holidays. We have rabbinic holidays during that other time, and then if you look at the biblical ones, that's when they're happening. So again, on the one hand, we don't know very much, and certainly when it comes to predicting the future, we don't know very much. And again, for a lot of people, that could be a source of anxiety because we could feel like we need to know, or we would benefit greatly from knowing what is going to be in the future. But we don't. So that's why I said in the beginning that I wanted to talk about managing uncertainty, and specifically the not knowing. What does it mean to say we don't know? So oftentimes you will hear people say that there's truly no order, that everything is random, and that our brains, in order to function in a world that is random without order, choose to find order in the chaos and live as if there's order. But you will hear people that say that there is no order and that everything is random. So this is not true. At least my experience tells me this is not true. Not just my desire to find order in chaos so that I can manage my existence and not be overcome by anxiety, but there are certain things that we've come to understand are not random. That doesn't mean there isn't randomness associated with them, but they are not at their core random. What I mean, and this is the part that often there is confusion because I'm trying to say something, but not necessarily expert at articulating it, and that's why I want to try again. What does it mean to say that everything is random? So I think that what some people are trying to articulate when they say that is, there is no meaning to how they play out. I think some people want to say that. That's what they're trying to say. There is no meaning as to how things play out. They would say, I do not say this, they would say, there is no designer, there is no implementer, there is no overseer. Things just happen. That's what they're trying to say. When they say things just happen, or that things are random, that is what they're trying to articulate. They're trying to articulate from their perspective, that there is no meaningful direction. There is no meaning to how things have come about. There is no meaning to how they're going to play out. I think that's what they mean to say. But the way they articulate it is that everything is random. It is not true that everything is random, because if everything was truly random, and this is where I have my difficulty articulating it. If it was true that everything is random, you could not plan. Based on what would you plan? Anything could happen in the next moment, and anything will happen in the next moment after that, because everything is random. There is no order. If there truly is no order and everything is random, then anything can happen at any moment. And not just anything can happen, anything will happen, because there's no order. The way the person is characterizing it, there is no order, which means why would I think I could safely get from point A to point B? How would I know that? Anything could happen at any moment. Would I get into a car knowing anything could happen at any moment when I'm driving? Would I make a plan for meeting somebody tomorrow when anything can happen at any moment? No planning would be meaningful, because anything could happen at any moment. There is no order. Everything is random. So that clearly is not our experience, and it can't be true. There is some order.
20% is random.
Well, all right. So now we're gonna get to some kind of mixture. But in order to get to the mixture, I just want to clarify that basic point. This is the part I find when I'm talking to somebody about it. This is where it gets fuzzy for people when I'm trying to explain the consequence of saying everything is random. If you say everything is random, that means that each moment, as things move on, all options are in play equally every moment. The next moment, there's option for an asteroid to be hitting me, or my coffee to be hot, or somebody to call me on the phone. These are all equally possible, because everything is random. One thing is not more likely than another. That's what it means. One thing is not more likely than the other. Everything is random. That's what those words mean. Everything is random. And that is not only not our experience, but it's demonstrably not true. Richard Feynman, there's a series of videotape lectures of Richard Feynman from Caltech that are like 6 lectures about science that he would give. I think he gave them every year for many years to, I think, primarily graduate students in the sciences. But in one of them, he does this demonstration with a pendulum. And so he swings a pendulum, and the pendulum swings back. So it swings back to this particular place. And now he stands just beyond where the pendulum swung back. Now, if this pendulum swings back and hits him, it will kill him. It's designed, I guess, if I remember correctly, it will kill him. but he's standing just outside of where it swung back, and it swings out and it swings back, and it just about comes to him, but it doesn't come to him. And then he explains that the reason he confidently stands there is because there are laws of gravity at work here, and perhaps other laws of physics that are in play here, and those laws never change. Like if an object drops at a certain amount of feet per second as it's moving forward, it always drops at that rate. That's what it means when you are exploring a law of science. There are certain things, they never vary. They never vary. You could predict things that are going to happen. Einstein could predict the bend in the light emitting around on the other side of a lunar eclipse, I think is when you saw it, but he could predict that the light would bend somehow based on his understanding of the laws of physics, and it did. It bent that way, and it was a demonstration that his understanding of light being a particle as well as a wave, and therefore it would be subject to certain laws of gravity. So this is something you could predict with reliability about how things are going to play out. So this is just one area, but this is an area where there is a kind of reliable order. There is some kind of reliable order. Now, that doesn't mean that there's no chaos at any point connected to it. But what I'm just trying to demonstrate is that it's not true that things are completely random. Things are not completely random. There is an order. That doesn't mean I can predict everything. Most things I still don't know, and I don't know most things about what's going to happen, but there is some kind of order. I'm suggesting to you that this, what we'll call the calendar, was meant to be something like this in our lives. There is going to be an order, some kind of a reliable place to get together. I don't know what's going to happen in 20 years, but I'm going to meet you at Tel Aviv Pizza on the first Tuesday of November, 20 years from now, right? Will there be a Tel Aviv Pizza? Will pizza even be something people eat? Will I be here 20 years from now? Will you be here 20 years from now? We don't know. We can make this, right? There are people that make these kinds of predictions, and it does work out. A lot of people make them, and it wouldn't work out. I don't know that. But I do know that Pesach is going to happen next year. I know Sukkot is going to happen next year. I don't know where I'll be for Pesach. I don't know where I'll be for Sukkot, but they are going to happen, and we could get together. Let's spend next Pesach together. There is going to be a Pesach. Whether we can spend it together, we will see. We can make an effort.
Okay,
but that's
a kind Jerusalem.
Right, next year in Jerusalem. So there is something. There is some order. And there in a world that also has lots of unknown, mostly what is unknown, there is some order. There is some basic order. That matters to me because I would suggest that for many of us, it is that order that is the foundation of our relationship with God. Without that order, without having some sense of order, and it's not just the calendar, there's other elements of our life that allow for us to experience some kind of order. But without that basic notion of order, the basic experience of order, it would be very hard to have a relationship with God. That's why it's often brought up, I think. Randomness is often brought up by people who want to deny the existence of God or challenge your relationship with God. That ultimately, why does it hurt so much? Why does it go to a scary place so much? Because it's going to what for many of us is the beginning of our relationship with God. What do I mean by that? That it's this sense of order that allows us to think of him as a director. So when I speak of him as directing life or directing creation, there is some foundation for that. There would be none if life was that I could, put my finger on if life was random. Completely, because I would have no place to even rest this concept that there is a manager or a director. Manager of what? Director of what? But from an early stage, I have a sense that there is an order, and not just that there is an order, but that this order is benevolent. Remember one time I was doing a question and answer session at Loyola in Chicago, at Loyola University. It was a Hillel. Believe it or not, Loyola has a Hillel. It's a Jesuit university. It has a Hillel. So does Marquette, where I went. My father actually, at one point, he was the director of the Hillel at University of Wisconsin in Madison. At that time, he was the de facto director of the Hillel at Marquette and other places. So Marquette has a Hillel, Loyola has a Hillel. And the particular room that we met in, Jesus is on the cross, looking on as we had a conversation together at the Hillel. And so one of the questions came up is somebody asked why would God allow for the Holocaust to happen, and somebody else from like across the room shouted out, stuff just happens. God didn't do the Holocaust. Stuff just happens. Everything's random, he called out. So I use this as a teaching opportunity. We were in a Hillel, the kids are in college, and I turned to this person and I challenged him. I said, you don't believe that. There's no way you believe that. And I know you don't believe that because you're in college. If everything was random, why would you spend tens of thousands of dollars a year to go to college? Yeah. In order for college to make any sense, things have to generally work out the way you think they will. They don't have to be exactly the way you think you will, but they have to generally be the way you think you will. Because what are you studying in college? Besides general knowledge, you are there to get a degree, which most likely you're going to use in order to make a living as you move forward. So you've picked a degree. How did you pick it? You looked around, you saw what it seems to involve, seemed to appeal to you, and this is what you've chosen. It's going to be the way you're going to earn your living moving forward. If everything is random, there is no future. There's nothing. What are you planning for? Anything could happen. Why would you spend tens of thousands of dollars preparing for a random future? It is true. It's not going to look exactly how you think it is. And it's not going to be exactly how you think it is. And there's going to be change, and there's going to be something different. And there's going to be things that are unpredictable. But at its core, there is still some kind of reliable order. And you are picking it because most likely you're right. And most likely what you think is how things are going to be in a few years is right. And you're making plans based on it. And so it is with almost all of our plans for the future, especially at that time of our life where we're making choices. I'm not saying everything is predictable and everything is ordered, but there is certainly an underlying, not only do we have an underlying sense of it, but it is proven that there is, in our lives at least, it seems to be proven that there is some kind of order, some kind of reliable order. And it's that experience of order that allows us to connect to one who may have ordered it, the one who ordered it. In other words, a sense that not only is there an order, but there is a being connected to that order. But you can't get to the being connected to that order without a sense of order. And not only is there order, but it is a benevolent order. It is a benevolent order. What do I mean by that? I mean, and again, this is from experience. I don't know how to objectively prove this, although I'm sure somebody who thought more than the 10 seconds, I always think about it, and then moves on to something else, might be able to come up with a way to demonstrate it. Perhaps there have been people that have already done it. But in my day, in order for me to have a good day, thousands of things have to go what I'll call right. They have to go, many of them things I never pay attention to until they go wrong.
That's where the randomness comes in.
I remember that I was driving back from Wisconsin. Zippy and I my mother had a place in Lake Tomahawk, Wisconsin, which is right near Rhineland, right near, not Rhinelander, near Minocqua. It was on a chain of lakes. You could actually take your boat and you could go watch the Minocqua ski show from your boat. It was on that chain of lakes, Lake Tomahawk. So we were driving back to Milwaukee, and I was driving my mother's car.
Chain or Eagle River.
It's definitely in that area of Eagle River and all those places where Camp Interlaken is, where Camp Ramah is up there.
In there.
So Interlaken JCC, not Interlaken the music camp. Anyways, we're driving back. It's my mother's car. I'm living in Israel. Zippy and I are living in Israel. We're back for the summer. We have my mother's car. I have $20 in my pocket. $20 cash, no credit cards. I am driving back to Milwaukee. At one point on the drive, I notice that the lights are dimming. The radio is making funny noise. I look out the rearview mirror and there's smoke coming out of the back of the car. We had just passed this tiny little motel and we're just passing it. I have enough. The car is still, it's slowed down, but it's still moving. I do a U-turn and I pull into a gas station. I pull into the gas station. It is a Sunday night. The gas station is closed. And the car, the car dies. So it's just parked there. And we have an adventure. It was an awesome adventure. It really was an awesome adventure. By the time it was over, it was touching. That moment, though, was I was in a bit of a pickle, and I call AAA, and I don't have the AAA card. My mother has the card, and they're explaining to me that with AAA it doesn't work that way. I have $20 cash. That's it. We end up walking up to the motel, and there's this woman, at reception. I explained to her what happened with the car. I noticed the price for room, $19.99.
Plus tax.
Right. I asked the woman, I'm going to call my mother. She'll give you her credit card over the phone. Can she pay you with the credit card over the phone? Because these are my only $20. She said, no, you got to pay. So I gave her the $20. Her husband says, I'll go with you and get your stuff from the car. I mean, this was the kind of town it was. Drove me to the car, picked up our luggage, took us back, and we had had a hotel room. As we're going to the motel room, the husband gives me $20. He says, I can't take a man's last $20. Here, you take it.
Wow.
And you just send me the $20 when you have money. And the next morning, we wake up. I'm walking back to the gas station. A truck stops by, asks me where I'm going. I said, I'm going over to the gas station. Picks me up, takes me down to the gas station, drops me off. The guy tells me they already fixed the car. It was an alternator brush. He showed me it. It's a tiny piece like that, the piece. I don't remember what it cost. It was very inexpensive. He took my mother's credit card over the phone, but he told me I could have charged you $400 for this. I could have charged you more for this because I could have told you need a whole alternator, but it was just a piece like this. So I kept the piece. It was this big. It was a tiny, tiny, tiny little piece. And I kept it, and the whole day was magical. We flew kites over there. I don't know, it was like, because everybody was just like, everyone was magically nice, and all this kind of things happen. But it all, if you thought of all the possibilities, that one little thing, and then it ends up that Rabbi Michael Twersky, had been in the hospital with kidney stones. Just while I was doing that, he was in a hospital passing a kidney stone. Right. And I told him about the whole thing with the alternator brush, and he said we were both having the same experience because I had a kidney stone, and it's the same thing. If you ever look at a kidney stone, it's this tiny little thing. Yeah, I've had it too. It's a tiny little thing. It disrupts your life.
Yes.
Yeah,
it disrupts your life, and that stuff. There's so many of those. There's so many things that could be like that. But I have no idea how my kidney works. I have no idea what it's doing right now. But if the tiniest thing was wrong with it, believe me, I would know.
Yes.
There's thousands of things that have to go right. Thousands of things have to go right. If one thing goes wrong, I'm having a terrible day. Which, by my own, again, unscientific approach, I would suggest that the balance of things that are happening in my life are benevolent. They are good. They are working out the way I need them to work out. There are things that are not. But on balance, most things work. So I could say, from my own experience, I come to two conclusions. There is some kind of order at the base. That's my life experience. There is some kind of order, and that order is benevolent. That order is benevolent. My relationship with God begins there. It moves on and becomes more sophisticated as I become more informed, as I think more and become more informed. But it starts there. That's why that is so important, that there is some reliable order, that there is some experience of reliable order at the core. There is still much that's unknown. Most things are unknown, but at the core, there is some kind of order. That sense that there is some kind of order. The lights in the sky, that there are reliable times when we're going to get together. That is a reliable order at its core. I'm going to have Shabbos. I when I taught in seminary, I taught at this one seminary called Shayara, and we had the students over for a Shabbaton, and for a Friday night oneg discussion in our house in Neve Yaakov. When we were living there, we had them over, maybe 30 students. They're all in our house hanging out, and our discussion was about worst ever Shabbos experiences. Worst ever Shabbos experiences. And people had some doozies, some real doozies. But at the end, I pointed out, and I didn't point it out, I didn't know this before. There was something I just noticed as we're having the conversation. You have your worst ever Shabbos experience, but Shabbos happens. Shabbos never doesn't happen. Exactly this Shabbos, my experience was like that. Next Shabbos, my experience is like that. Next Shabbos, my experience is like that. But Shabbos always happens. Pesach always happens. This Pesach, what did you do? What was this one? Do you remember last Pesach? Yeah, what did you do? Remember the Pesach before? Pesach always happens. Shabbos always happens. How I experience it might change, but it always happens. That's important experientially. That I am suggesting it is a key element in what evolves into my relationship with God. The sense of some kind of order in what otherwise might feel like chaos. But there is some kind of order, and that the order is benevolent. It's almost always good. It's almost always good. I don't know what's going to happen. I could say this. I feel like I could say it to somebody else. I don't know what next year is going to be like for sure, but it's very likely going to be good. It may not be 100% what I want, but most likely it's going to be good. What will be 5 years from now? I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but it's most likely going to be good. How can I say that? Because that is my experience of life. My experience of life, if I'm willing to admit it, my experience of life is that it is primarily benevolent. There is order amidst the chaos, and it's primarily benevolent. There's much more to our relationship with God than that, but that is where for many of us it begins. And with that, I suggest we wait till next week to talk about something completely different, completely random. But next week, not completely random. I look forward to it. I'll see you guys. I'm very grateful for having this opportunity to get together. Be well. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Reverend.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Have a good trip. Have a good trip.
Thank you.
Rabbi,
Brief.
I could play
Yeah.
devil's advocate. You could have the other side of people who say everything is determined, which of course determinism, which of course would be a thorn in our free will wouldn't exist and no religion could exist. So
Wait, what were you saying again? Okay, you went in and out.
if everything is determined,
Yeah.
then there's no free will.
Right.
And then religion.
You free will people. Gosh, I can't take it. How much you think free will matters. It doesn't matter that much.
Oh, okay.
Free will.
I'm
It's
not
so
saying it does.
overblown.
I'm just saying you need it. You need it in order
Yeah,
to
but
have
how
a
much of
religion.
it do you need? I know. How much of it do you need? Not as
Well,
much as.
No, that's
No, but we do. The Torah says we have free will, so obviously we have free will. Okay.
all right. Thank you.
All right. Be well.